So let's jump straight into the stream. So welcome to everybody that's joined. I am having a slight technical hitch at the moment, so I'm just trying to fix it in the background. If you notice, my actual screen has frozen in the back. So while I'm trying to fix this, just bear with me a couple of minutes. I don't want to have to remove the stream and start again. So just give me 30 seconds while I try and fix this video. Right, I think that's a little bit better now. Is it? No, it's not. Let's try one more thing. How about now? Is the mic a bit better now? Is that a little bit louder? Cool. Excellent. So we are going to kick off in just a moment. This is always the worst thing you can ever do on a live stream, and not fully test everything before you get started. And if you do test anything, it does generally go wrong anyway. So I will get this fixed. Just give me 30 seconds. And I'm hoping that is going to fix it. There we go. Hopefully you can see me in the background now. And if I change these windows, yep, there we go. That's perfect. Cool. So let's kick off. So it's been a really busy month for Ubiquiti. They've released a lot in the past little while. So let's go over some of the products they have released. And you can see the first one is already behind me. And I just realized I am in the way of this. So I'm going to move myself out of the way. I'll move myself to the other side. And you can see we have the Enterprise NVR. So this was announced, I think, right at the end of September or early October. So it's somewhere around there. And it's their enterprise grade scale network video recorder. So with this comes a lot of advantages with the UniFi ecosystem. So if you had those larger scale deployments, they did the stackable UNVR Pros, but they do support them, but they've moved on to another level. Now, hopefully sometime in the future, we may see something like this getting stacked, because I can see this getting bigger and bigger. And just looking at the specs of something like this, you can see it's a 3U 16 drive bay. So you can populate this with 16 terabyte drives if you want to do so. I don't know if anybody's actually managed to populate this with any bigger drives, but if you have, drop it down in the comments or let me know if anybody's added anything more. They have two 10 gig SFP uplinks, SFP plus uplinks. So that gives you 10 gigabit connectivity to your core switch or whatever you're getting connected to, and a 10 gigabit Ethernet port. We have the RAID protection, and we have hot swappable PSUs, which generally isn't the norm in some of Ubiquiti's switches and lineups. It's generally the ones that are built in, and you can purchase the RSP additionally, which gives you the extra power connectivity of the backup. But some of their more enterprise stuff, which we'll discuss a little bit more later, you'll see that they are starting to add in the PSUs. So one thing I like about this, so the pricing of this is in euros at the moment. If I switch to the US store, I would do the UK one, but we'll go with dollars at the moment just for the ease of this stream. So if we have a look at this, we have $2,000 out the box. And if we have a look a bit out in the market at the moment, if I just type in 16 bay NVR, for example, we'll see that there are quite a few out there. So some of them are Synology drives that you're seeing on here. I did actually look at this a little bit earlier, and I saw a Hikvision one, which was on here. So if we just go into a website, and I'm hoping this is going to let me through. Yep, there we go. It doesn't actually give me a price, but Hikvision do have an alternative out there as well. So there is a competitor to them. Unfortunately, I don't have a trade account with this website, or if anybody can find me the price of this, I'll be useful to see a little bit of a comparison in terms of how they stand up against Hikvision. The one thing I will note is the cameras on the NVR Enterprise. You can add in up to 210 full HD cameras. So that is a very large scale, and you can do 74K cameras. And I want to say it's about 122K cameras. I think that's roughly the sort of scale that you would be looking at with this. And one thing I like with this also as well is you have the storage option on here. I don't know if they do this with the NVR because I haven't tested it in a little while, but it's really good that they have this functionality to say, okay, I'm going to have, let's say, for example, 100 cameras. I'm going to populate it with 16 terabyte drives with RAID 1, for example, at the moment, or you can choose RAID 5 or RAID 10, however you want that set up, but I'll choose RAID 1 just for simplicity at the moment. And you can say how many days you want your recording for. Let's say you have a requirement for, not quite sure why that's not updating. Maybe that's a bug. Yeah, not quite sure why that's not updating, but when I was testing this earlier, it was showing me that you had the option and you can choose the amount of time frames that you do that. So maybe that is a bug with their website at the moment. I'm not quite sure. Or if I try and refresh the page, let's see if we can make it happen. Or if I've clicked something I'm not supposed to. So let's say we said 100 hours, 100 cameras, sorry. And yeah, there we go. So let's say we want 20 days worth of recording. And that is with the 8 terabyte drives. It will show you how many drives you need to populate. So really useful feature on their website when it comes to capacity and planning. And if you wanted to look at the 16 terabyte drives, it's pretty much half the amount of drives that you would need. So with the NVR, the bezel is on top. It's not quite out yet, but the bezel is a really useful feature that comes on the front. It shows you the overview and management. You can live stream directly from this little screen right here, and it just clips straight in like that. And it's a 4.7 inch, and it's used as a physical lock to the discs as well. So if you want to protect what's behind it, I don't know how it's made. I need to look at the material to see the technical specs. It's polycarbonate, so it's plastic. So I'm sure that's probably going to be a little bit easier to remove if it is plastic, but it is something that adds a really nice effect if you wanted it. If we go back to the NVR, we look at the tech specs down here and we can see that the max power consumption is about 410 watts. So if you populate all the drives, we have 410 watts worth of power that it's going to pull. And as I mentioned earlier, I think I said 120 2K cameras is 140. So you have a reasonable amount in terms of cameras that you can deploy if you're setting something like this up. If you have deployed something like this, let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what sort of setup you've done. There are a few people that have done deployments of these already or videos on these. Unfortunately, I've not been able to get my hands on one yet. But there are people such as Cody from Mac Telecoms or Clay from DPC Technology. They've all done the reviews on these. So go ahead and check them out because they are really powerful pieces of equipment. So that's the Enterprise Pro. That was one that I wanted to talk about because that one was the earliest one with that. And what came with that was actually UniFi Protect 5.0. So if we move on to this, and I'm going to move myself back to the other side now. So we can read what's going on with this page and try and make it a little bit smaller as well. There we go. So UniFi Protect 5.0 brought in ONVIF support. Now, this is very early in terms of what it is. There's a lot there's a lot coming with this down the line. I have personally added some Hikvision cameras into my UniFi Protect setup. If I quickly see if I can jump into this. And if we look at UniFi, no, that's my network. If I quickly go to devices, you can see I have a bunch of Hikvision cameras that have been added into my setup. And I do have an update available, which I need to do at this point. So it's really good that you can actually open up the ecosystem. Has anybody actually added any cameras into their ecosystem, and what sort of cameras have you added? I do seem to be having one problem with a single camera, which I do have a case with Ubiquiti at the moment, so hopefully we'll get that resolved. But if anybody's actually seen this issue where it just says it can't add it, let me know. And let me know what you did to fix it, if you did fix it at all. So really good, useful feature. It has got rid of my NVR, which was very loud and noisy. And the Ubiquiti fans are a lot quieter than the Hikvision NVRs. So I'm really looking forward to what's coming down the line. There has been a lot of rumors around the AI key and what's coming there. And what that will add is some of the features that we've been looking for within UniFi Protect. This is just stuff that's come off from forums and websites that have been taken down, but I don't know too much more other than that. So the next sort of product that was brought out was I'm not going to go into that one just yet, and I believe the other ones have closed down. So if we go into Wi-Fi, the other two products that they've released recently is the Device Bridge and the Device Bridge Pro. So I'll quickly open up the Device Bridge Pro at the same time. Both of those were released, again, a couple of weeks ago. Oh, it was right next to it. There it is. And both of these devices are very interesting in terms of what they can do. So you probably saw that screenshot right there. So it actually works wirelessly to send and set up another camera somewhere else. Now, this does work with a PoE injector. So the device bridge itself, you'll see, has a gigabit LAN on it, and it provides up to 15 watts worth of PoE power. It uses the 5 gigahertz band and can give you up to 867 throughput, 860 megabits per second throughput, I should say. And it's compatible with UniFi Protect, Talk phones, and various IoT devices. I would be a little bit more intrigued if you're able to set up I'd be a little bit more intrigued if you're able to set up another switch with it and add in multiple devices, but obviously it's the amount of throughput and bandwidth that's going to be going through. So if anybody's tested this, let me know down in the comments and how you got on with it. I'd be very intrigued to see how that worked. Now, that comes in at $99, and sometimes I feel that's a bit of a no-brainer because you have deployed something a little bit further away and you don't want to run any cables, then you can just go ahead and buy one of these, join it to your Wi-Fi network, because if I show you the deployment, you'll see it uses a standard access point and connects across using the 5 gigahertz network, and then it can communicate between the two. Now, this is something ideal if you have in your back garden, or if it's something that you just want to set up on the other side of the house, but you don't want to run a cable. I don't know exactly what the limitations are in terms of how far it will go, but if you have a look at this, this looks to be somewhere outdoor where you need an extra access point or you need an extra camera, whatever it might be. This is a really good product. Now, what's the difference between the UDB and the UDB Pro? The UDB Pro has a longer range that it can use. And again, it uses the 5 gigahertz network, and it can connect up to 5 kilometers away. So I've seen some tests out on there online, which have gone up to 300, 400, 500 meters away. But I haven't seen anything that has gone as far as 5 kilometers. Hey, Tech Talk, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. So it's something that's been out there. It's something that I've seen that some people have done up to 0.5 kilometer away, but nothing further than that. So again, any use cases of anybody that's done something where it's gone further than that, I'd be interested to see how the performance was. Hoping to get my hands on one of these soon. As you can see, they are sold out and they're not the easiest to get hold of, as a lot of Ubiquiti products. But with this, you get 2 gigabit ports, and there's one for PoE. So it's powered using PoE or PoE Plus if you want to do so. It's pole mountable, and they're sold as single units. So just like the UDB, you can go ahead. If I show you the deployment, there's a U7 outdoor there, which has a Wi-Fi connectivity to the UDB Pro, or you can actually use 2 UDB Pros, one from your site A and the other one to site B. So if you really needed to go that little bit further, you could go and use something like this. So this is another product that they've released within the last month. So it's been a really busy period. If we go to the next one, so they do some stuff around the Wave MLO and the UISP 3.0. I haven't really followed that part too much, but that's something that has also been introduced. So there's some more UISP devices out there. It's something I'm going to start getting a little bit more into and hopefully produce some more videos on this. The next one was the big one, which I think it was completely spammed in my comments on one video I did, and that was the UNAS Pro. So the UNAS Pro is due very soon. There again, some people out there have already got their hands on it very early on. Let me make myself a little bit smaller so you can see it. Some people already have their hands on this out there, and they are already done. They have already completed reviews. So something that's out there already. For me, the UNAS Pro, I have a Western Digital drive already, but this itself, am I going to get one? Most probably. It's something that gives me 10 gig worth of connectivity, and I have a 10 gig Mac, so I can connect it to my network and work across it seamlessly. I do a lot of content creation, so working across a 10 gig link is amazing for me, as I can edit directly from the NAS, and that's something I'll be very interested in testing once I get my hands on it. In terms of comparison for price points, let's have a look. So, I mean, we have the UNAS Pro. So if I just go to Amazon, if I can spell, let's just go to Amazon quickly, and let's just go, there you go, I was searching it earlier. So let's see if we can find a 7-bay NAS, 10 gig Ethernet. Let's see if we can find what we can find. So, in fact, let's just go NAS 10 gigabit Ethernet. I know that most of them are going to come up that Synology. So we have a Ancestor, which is 2.5 gig. We have, I'm sure I've seen QNAP ones on here. So if I search for QNAP, actually, if I search for QNAP, we definitely have a load of drives on here for QNAP. I'm not going to go through all of their store to have a look, but if we go 4 to 9 bays, we can see some of the ones they have here. I'm not sure which ones on here have 10 gig connectivity, but I'm going to pick something at a similar sort of price point, which is around the £500 mark. So, which is this one right here. So this is a 4-bay. It has 2 M2 slots. So this is something that the UNAS Pro doesn't have. It doesn't have any NVMe slots or M2 slots. It's something that only has 2.5 or 3.5 gig support, inch support. It has 8 gig of RAM, and it has, I believe, a quad-core processor and something like this. So I know, obviously, the QNAP does have a lot more capability as well. So let's go back to the UNAS Pro. Let's look at the technical specifications. So it has 8 gig of RAM, and it has a quad-core processor. It's an A57. I'm not quite sure which one this is, but it doesn't say. This has an Intel Celeron. So I couldn't comment at this point how they stand up against each other, but this has a Celeron N5105, and the other one is a A57 ARM processor. So I think this is really good product for what it is. It's going to bring something at a very good price point. Normally, a lot of people complain that Ubiquiti products are quite expensive, but for me personally, I think this is a really good price point at 4. This is again the European site. If I go to the US one, so $499. So for $500, you're going to get something like this, which gives you 10 gig connectivity, and it has the data protection and RAID storage within there as well. It's a standard NAS drive. It has a lot of features built inside it. So if you are looking for something, it is very much business focused and file storage focused. So it has backup features and access. It joins into UniFi Identity, Enterprise Identity, Enterprise, whichever way it is. It joins into that directly. So that is something that is going to be focused very heavily on people that have a lot of storage and a lot of network devices. Will you move away from a Synology to something like this? I think a lot more people will move away when you can do a lot more with it. Or if they alternatively start doing the UNAS Pro and the NVR together. We know this is a very similar chassis, if not the same. So it'll be really good to see if it's something that they would do to put them together, so you can split them half and half. I think that would make it a little bit more advantageous. Somebody might be more willing to jump into this. So that's something I think would be a good idea. Will they do it? I don't know. That's something we're going to have to wait and see. So let's take a look now, and let's jump into the next set of items. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was the enterprise switching. So something they very recently released. Cody himself just posted a picture earlier about the enterprise switches, so you can go ahead and check that out. He's very lucky to get his hands on one of those, but hopefully something. I can't say I'm going to go out and buy £3,500–4,000 worth of switches, but who knows? If Ubiquiti are feeling generous and they want to send me one, I would be happy to review it. Just going back to what you're saying, Tech Talk, yeah, they should have built a 1U. So this is the Pro version. I've seen a lot of people on Reddit and on Facebook groups saying maybe they should bring out a 1U version, and hopefully it's something that comes in the future, because a nice 3 or 4 drive bay, it's the same thing, the UNVR Pro and then the UNVR. you can have a nice 1U rack. I'm having to upgrade my rack to go ahead and buy one of these, which is quite frustrating. So I need to make sure I have enough space for future-proofing any new devices that Ubiquiti are going to release. Like the some mentioned AI key. That's something that I did a video on a little while back. And again, it appeared up in Reddit after the Ubiquiti World Conference, what got taken down very quickly. So something that would be very interesting and for me to add into my existing setup. So let's jump into then one of the final products that they've released, which is the Enterprise Campus switches. So let's start with the aggregation switch. So this is available today, this aggregation switch. And we can go ahead and see that it has a high density switch setup. So it has 4825 gigabit ports and 600 gigabit ports on them. That's SFP28 ports with both of them. It does the MC lag, so the multi-chassis link aggregation. So this is something I've seen a number of posts of people wanting to get into the enterprise space. I think Ubiquiti have made a couple of attempts to get into the enterprise space, but this is one I think is really going to push. They have got some really good features coming on this. You have the layer 3 support of VRRP. Again, a lot of people have asked for this in the past. They wanted it on some of the lower end models, but it is very much enterprise. Maybe your medium businesses might be willing to stretch to something like this. There's BGP dynamic routing coming to this, but if we have a look at the small print at the bottom just down here, so if I scroll down and zoom in a little bit closer for here, you can see that this must be paired with an aggregation switch. So this is the aggregation switch itself. So you would need to buy 2 of these. So that already you're looking at around 8,000 euros, 8,500 euros. There's items coming in the next UniFi network release. There are some really good features coming in that. So do keep your eyes peeled. A lot of people have access to early access already. So yeah, there's some really good features coming. So do keep your eyes peeled for that one. And then we have the BGP dynamic routing. So this is OSPF support is scheduled for an upcoming UniFi application release. So definitely VRRP is coming in the next UniFi update release, but the BGP dynamic routing is probably going to come a little bit later down the line. I'm sure that's probably going to be another 1 or 2 iterations before we see that coming. Now, what makes this so enterprise? Obviously, the amount of throughput and speed that you can get from something like this. It's really, really powerful. Is it going to rival people like Cisco or Juniper? It's going to take a little while. I think if they wanted to really compete, they obviously need to get some more features in there and get this more readily available. Hopefully being at the price point it might not sell out as quickly as some of the other items. There are some products like the AIS DSLR cameras, which have been in stock the whole time because they come at a very hefty price point. So it'll be interesting to see. I've seen some posts on Facebook again and Reddit to say that they've got people lined up for these deployments. So I'll be very interested to see how these deployments go. I'm just going to give myself a quick break and drink while I look at the comments to see if there's anything in there. I think, yeah, I mean, Tech Talk, the AI key, yeah, it will be definitely, if it works for ONVIF cameras, I don't know. Again, I didn't make it to the World Conference. Unfortunately, I was actually away on vacation at that point, so I didn't get to go, but it's definitely, I very much feel gutted about. If I had the chance, I would go, but hopefully at some point they come across to Europe, and yeah, it might be a little bit more of an easier journey than flying across to the States. Yeah, I mean, Dan, possibly they might release the UNVR as a UNAS itself. It's possible. It might come. It is pretty much, I mean, you say, is it the same hardware? I guess let's take a look together, shall we? So let's open up store.ui.com. We need to go to, I feel like I should know this website off the back of my hand by now. But let's go to security. So let's take a look at the tech specs of this. And if we go to the UNVR Pro, So we have 7 3.5 gig, one uplink, 10 gig SFP plus, one RJ45 gigabit. This has a DC backup ready power. So let's have a little look at the back of the unit if there's an image of it. Yeah, so this doesn't have hot swappable power supplies, but if we go to the UNAS Pro, let's take a look down here. So let's have a look. So 7 bays. Yep, that's the same. That's the same. That's the same. And if we go down to technical specs, we can see a quad core, 8 gig of RAM at 1.7 gigahertz. So if we go to the technical specs, I don't think Ubiquiti have listed them. Interesting. It's definitely got that, the UNVR Pro. But yeah, it doesn't tell me the specs. So interestingly, maybe it's something they've hidden. Maybe it's something that they're just not saying. But interestingly, they don't have, I mean, if someone knows another website that they can go and grab the specs from or have the specs to hand, you know, let me know. And we can discuss this a little bit further. But in terms of the rest of the specs, it looks to be fairly similar. Nice tech talk. I mean, yeah, I think Riley was there from HostFi. If it runs Linux, we could probably sideload apps. Yeah, that's something I'm pretty sure I saw a video. I haven't seen it on YouTube of someone talking about Docker. But I think they actually just used the NAS as a storage device. I don't think they were actually running the app on it itself. Good shout, Dan. Let's check tech specs. techspecs.ui.com. Let's have a quick look. NVR Pro. No, they don't have it. So yeah, I mean that's probably one I want to hunt for. So if anybody has the specs of the UNVR Pro, I would be very intrigued to see how they stack up against each other. It could be just a slightly different circuit board inside, which has a few additional. Yeah, no, there's nothing on there, which could have a bit more of a specification inside, but I can't prove or disprove my theory at this point. I can only tell you everything else is exactly the same. So under the hood, who knows? Maybe it's something that we can find out at some point. So back to the enterprise campus switching. So where do we get to? Yeah, let's have a look. So, oh, that's one I'll show you at the end. So yeah, the enterprise campus switching. So we have something that has the campus switching. So with pairing with this is pairing with the aggregation switch itself is the switch enterprises. So this comes in both 24 port and 48 port. And maybe I've been living in the box, but for the first time in my life, I've seen PoE+++, which we've seen PoE Plus and PoE++, but not PoE+++. So that's a lot of pluses. But it's not something we've seen. I'm wondering if we will ever see PoE++++. But there is a lot of power that comes out of this. So if I have a quick look at the 24 port, so we have the enterprise grade layer 3 ether lighting switches. So that is that ever so wonderful ether lighting feature, which is very enterprisey, which is love or hate by a lot of people. For me personally, I think it's a useful feature. If I look at it, I can say, all right, that's on that VLAN, that's on this VLAN. What I really would like to see, and maybe something they can do in the future, is you can quickly toggle, because you can see the speed and you can see the network it's on. If you could just toggle that on the little LED screen on the front, that or LCD screen on the front, that would be really cool. So then you could see what speed it's running at. I've had issues in the past where looking at make it overly technical, and you go a little bit too further than you should, when sometimes an issue is just the network speed of the card, where it should be running at a gigabit, but it's running at 100 meg. So something toggling between those two, it's something I've mentioned in a previous video before. I think that'd be a really cool feature to add on. Not the most useful one. It's probably not top of Ubiquiti's list, but yeah, for me, I think it would be a really good feature. So we have 8 2.5 gigabit ports on there with PoE++, and we have 16 10 gigabit ports with PoE++. And then there's 2 25 gig uplink ports. So they go to those, if I go back to the aggregation switch, so we have 48 25 gig ports. Would be interesting. I mean, this does have some 100 gig ports, so I wonder if they're going to release another sort of switch with something with a bit more, another gateway with a higher capacity, but I don't think that would really be required. But who knows? The Ubiquiti product team have been very busy over the past few months, and I don't think they're going to be slowing down. I think they're going to keep going with this momentum. I think there's a few more items. Definitely the enterprise campus stuff is coming by the end of the year. It does say available December 2024. So going back to this, there is additional hot swappable power modules, and so let's read that again. So including hot swappable, so there's 2 included hot swappable power modules with power sharing to expand total PoE availability or 1+1 redundancy. So there is also 4 hot swappable fan modules with a 3+1 redundancy. So you can lose 1 and you still have 3. You wouldn't be able to lose 2. You can only ever lose 1, and it's the same with this. You have a 1+1 redundancy. So you can only ever lose 1 of these products. So if we look at the features, these are the 4 hot swappable fans on the back that you can see. And these are the 2 600 watt modules. So this gives a total of 1050 total supply on the front. So it uses a 1200 watt power supply, and it uses 150 watt to power all the stuff inside, with then using 1050 for PoE++. For those of you that don't know, the PoE++ can give you 90 watts worth of power. So this is 802.3 BT. So very similar. I don't know if I'm reading that. I'm pretty sure 802 BT. It's type 4, class 8. Okay, fine. There is a PoE++ that can give you up to 90 watts as well, I believe. Or it might be 60 watts. I might be confusing it at this point. The switching capacity numbers, I mean, these are just numbers at this point. I mean, you wouldn't be able to comprehend this in a smaller ecosystem. But when you do have those massive campuses or units that are running these networks, these numbers can become quite critical in terms of depending on what sort of data you're running. So yeah, I mean, it has the standard, the rest of it's pretty much a standard build. If we look at, sorry, I skipped this down here. If we look at the layer 2 features, let's have a look to see what's the difference between something like this and one of the Pro Max switches, for example. So let's take a look at you found the Tech Talk, you found the ARM A57, right? So let's go back. I think I closed the UNVR Pro. So if we go to the UNVR Pro, nope, we want to go to the UNAS Pro, tech specs. Yeah, so it's a ARM A57 in both of them. So I'm assuming at this point they're exactly the same unit. Tech Talk, which website did you find it on? Just out of curiosity, so I can have a look at myself in the future. So where we were going to have a look at something, weren't we? We were going to compare this to the Pro Max. So let's have a look at the 48 port. Sorry, I'm scrolling really quickly at this point. So I'm just going to open up a quick workbook and I'm just going to populate these side by side. So I think in terms of the layer 2 features, they're exactly the same across the board. There's no difference. Layer 3, if we have a quick look, so DHCP into VLAN, static routing. Yeah, so in terms of layer 2 and layer 3 switching, it's exactly the same. I think it is literally just the power and the switching capacity and everything like that within. So you have a much larger, I guess, amount of power that you can pull from these. It'll be interesting to see with stuff like this. I know it says enterprise, but it'll be interesting to see if Ubiquiti ever get back into the lighting. They did have LED panels a very, very long time ago, which were powered over PoE. I don't know if they still exist. Ubiquiti LED panels. Here we go. This is something that came a long time ago. They were using PoE Plus. They were 3000 brightness. So I'll be very interested to see if Ubiquiti get themselves back in. I don't want to say if it's true or not, but I think I read something about them bringing back the Bluetooth sensor. Anybody correct me in the comments if that's not the case, but I think I vaguely remember them saying something about that. So it would be good if they start getting into these devices again. And maybe with those switches, I guess we don't even need the enterprise one with that amount of power, but these would be the Ubiquiti LED panels. And I'd be interested to know if anybody's actually got one of these. I'd be interested to know if they still work. So you can see there, it's connected up to a PoE switch and has the LED panels. So yeah, I mean, it's been a very interesting month. It's been a very interesting month for what's gone on. The last thing I was going to show you, which I think a lot of people have spoken about, this was in the latest Ubiquiti video. Not something I have any information on in terms of what it is or what it does, was the UniFi Enterprise Wi-Fi 7 access point. So I think this is what it came up in the video. I have muted it so it doesn't get done for copyrights, but you can see that that product right there doesn't look like any of the access points we have at the moment. The most similar one it looks to is the U7 outdoor, but that doesn't seem to be there. But within that had dual connectivity. So is that going to be for redundancy? That's something that is to be seen. Hello from France. Hi. No, thank you for joining. I'm good. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Ubiquiti stuff at the moment in terms of what they've released in the past month. It's been a really busy period for them. Yeah, well, you're welcome. I mean, if you have any questions, feel free to fire them in the chat and we can discuss them. How about their old Leaf switches, USW Leaf? So I did the Ubiquiti stuff a little while ago, but I think I stopped doing it when the Leaf stuff came out. So I think this is still around. I don't think you can buy it on Ubiquiti's website. This is something that was posted 4 years ago. Yeah, I mean, over 4 years ago, it's gone. And what was the spec of that? So this is someone's website that they posted, and they did a YouTube video on it. I don't know who is it. Serve the Home. He has a number of subscribers. So yeah, I mean, this is something that he did a while ago. I'm just trying to browse through the specs. So this also had 48 times 25 gigabit Ethernet ports. They look like SFP to me, unless I'm not seeing that right. But maybe that's just a typo. And the SFP Plus 10 gig as well. It's not 10 gig Ethernet, but yeah, I mean, it's 10 gig, which is and on the right hand side. So yeah, I mean, it looks like it was in EA during COVID and they removed it. Okay, fine. I think I do vaguely remember seeing this. It's not one of the EA products I'd bought back in the days of this. So yeah, I mean, it looks like, to be honest with you, it looks fairly similar to the new aggregation switch in terms of specs. I don't know if this tells me in terms of CPU. I mean, this was $2,000 at that point. So in 2020, this was $2,000. And this is I think this was their second attempt to get into the data center stuff, and I think this is where they got a lot of backlash, that it didn't have the features that were needed. You had dual power supplies, again, not hot swappable, which they are hot swappable now. So it looks like they have redesigned it a little bit. Yeah, it looks like they have redesigned it a bit with that. You're looking to buy the UDM SC. Well, it depends what you're looking to do, really. If we have a quick look, I'll stop talking about the other stuff at the moment. We can go and have a look at this. Oh, no, not here. We don't want to go there. So if we look at the cloud gateways, for example, or UniFi cloud gateways, you have 3 different options in terms of the UDM SE, or in terms of the Dream Machine, I should say. You have the Dream Machine Pro, the Dream Machine Special Edition, and the Dream Machine Pro Max. I'm running the Pro Max personally. The one thing I would note is if you need PoE, then just go with the Special Edition, because the other 2 don't have PoE. If it's not something you're going to need in terms of PoE, then you don't need to. You can have a look at the other 2 options depending on what you want. If it's something for a home, generally the Dream Machine Pro is ample. You don't need anything more than that generally for a home connection, unless you have a 10 gig network connectivity out to the internet, which some people do. I don't think you are going to need something like this. I think the limitations come around the IPS and IDS. So, sorry, yeah, not 10 gigs. So 3.5 gig IPS routing and 5 gigabits IPS routing. So unless you have a very high bandwidth connectivity that you're going out to the internet with, I mean, the Special Edition will be perfectly fine for you. What else are you running with it? Are you running anything specific? Or are you just looking to run the Dream Machine on its own? So the U7 Enterprise was sort of the last talking point I had of this. I have released a new video today if you haven't seen it already. I'm doing a multi-part series. So Ubiquiti did send me a load of equipment. Oh, no, I want to go to my website, not my page, not their page. So I have released a new video today, which I go through UniFi network, setting up start to finish. So if you do need any information about that, we cover things like setting up networks, going through firewall rules. So the firewall rules cover things like IoT, printing across guest networks, AirPlay across guest networks, and setting up your children's network if you want to set up a specific network for them, and even VPN connectivity. So there's a lot of information. That's quite a long video. You can see that's 33 minutes in length. So that's quite a bit that is on there. I do have another part coming next week, which is UniFi Protect. And we go through the same thing, setting it all up, getting it all configured. And that does include ONVIF support as well. So that's another video that's coming next week. And hopefully in the future, if I get the chance, I'm going to complete an Access one and a UniFi Talk one, because they're 2 other areas that I'm very keen to expand my videos into. I was looking, sorry, next one. So 2.5 gig on the UniFi Enterprise AP. I would guess so. I would actually almost push to say there's 10 gig. I have a TP-Link model, which has a 10 gig Ethernet connectivity on it. I will just grab that 1 second. So this is the TP-Link 10 gig model. Sorry, let me move close to the camera. This is the TP-Link 10 gig model, and this has a 10 gig Ethernet uplink on it. This does support MLO, which the Ubiquiti devices are not quite there yet. I think they have, I think they're in early access with MLO, if I remember last time from what I was reading. So the MLO is coming, but it's not quite there yet, and it is already out on the TP-Link one. I am going to be doing a review on this stuff shortly. I have TP-Link sending me some more gear of their Armada setup, so I'm going to be reviewing some of their stuff as well. Along with those, I have another product that we're going to be looking at. And that is these guys. I do a lot of Ubiquiti stuff, but I do want to expand out into other areas. So Alta Labs, I do have some of their products. They're new in the market. They've been around I don't want to say how long they've been around for. The main company themselves have been around for a long time, but the Ultralabs brand has been maybe a year, maybe 2 years. But this is their Route 10. So this little device right here is a 10 gigabit router, and it has some PoE built into it. And we're going to look at some of the features. I may do another live unboxing of this, and we can go through some of the features on there. So if that's something you're interested in, we can talk about that in another video. But this little device is $199, and it's a really good price for what it is. So let's move that out of the way. And yeah, so that's pretty much really all I had to cover. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the 5 gigabit internet speed, you might find when you turn on IPS and IDS, your speed drops down to 3.5 gig, as that's the maximum capability. If you wanted the 5 gig, you could go with the Dream Machine Pro Max, and that will give you what you need basically with that. It will allow you to use your full bandwidth connectivity. And yeah, I mean, it'll give you the most out of it. Are you just using network, or are you using Protect? What else are you going to be using? Because that's another decision you might want to make. I mean, something might be, I don't think any of the other devices, they're only 1 gig and 1.5 gig throughput. So you might not want to look at something like that. No, Ubiquiti, even though they're expensive, comparing against some of the other enterprise products like Cisco, Juniper, some of the other ones out there, they're actually a lot more cheaper. They may be more expensive in some of the hardware up front, but the no licensing fee makes them win overall all day long. So I think that's going to be their big driver into the enterprise space. And I mean, even looking at their enterprise switches for what they are, they seem to be a lot cheaper than some of the enterprise Cisco or Juniper switches. Yeah, Tech Talk, I think you're right. I think MLO is still in early access. I haven't got around to testing it yet. I have upgraded my Intel NUC recently to have a Wi-Fi 7 chip. So I'm going to be testing that shortly and having a look at that. But I think I'm probably going to end the stream in a few moments. That's pretty much all I had to cover. If you want to see more live streams, do let me know. It's something I'm hoping to do a little bit more regularly, and we can discuss different topics. If there's anything you want to see or want to talk about, obviously just bring it to the stream and we can have a discussion. So I'm sure over the coming weeks, the last thing I actually will mention is set your alarm clocks. The UNAS Pro does go online tomorrow to be purchased. So if you want to get your hands on one of those, make sure you're quick, because I know they're going to go very quickly, especially at that price point. So $499 or £399, I think, if you are in the UK. So I don't think it's actually going to be available in the UK tomorrow. Yeah, it still says coming soon, but it's £380 plus VAT, and that will hopefully come fairly soon. Cool. Thank you everyone for your time, and hopefully I will speak to you in the next one.